how to spot a fake Gibson, otherwise known as a Chibson, a Chinese-made fake Gibson. I've just spotted one here in the UK, listed for £1,700, which is probably about $2,000 give or take. And sadly, it's through a big retailer, and clearly they've been had. So I've let them know as well, and I've pointed out all of the things that make this definitely a fake to them. So hopefully they're going to remove it. And I wanted to take you through so you can spot as well, if you see a Chinese fake, then you know exactly what you're looking for. Immediate visual cues so that you're not going to get done over. Sometimes I understand people want to buy a cheap Chibson, Gibson style thing because they can't afford the real thing and it's just for them and they're not going to sell it on. They're not going to try and pull a fast one. Sadly, somebody is trying to pull a fast one here. So I will take you through what to look for. So you can see very clearly this Gibson, or I should say Chibson. The very first thing is this Gibson logo is all wrong. The lettering should be parallel with the fretboard. So the G and the N should run parallel to the fretboard. What commonly happens on these Chibsons is that they over italicize that lettering. So that's a dead giveaway straight away. Then you can immediately see this headstock. The points on either side of this headstock should be much more pointy, if you like. This is the real deal Gibson headstock. As you can see, nice open book style headstock and nice pointy wings here. Here they're very blunt, and it's almost a modern style Epiphone headstock. That's what it kind of looks like. So they presumably, I think sometimes they do that to be able to get it through customs and whatnot, and it looks slightly different to a Gibson, so they can get away with it. Normally they might cover up the Gibson logo with a bit of tape, and so then it can get through customs if it's looked at and spotted. The other thing to look for is the back of the headstock. Now immediately you can see, and I'll flick on, you can see on this headstock the writing is cut out of the back of the headstock post finishing. Now what Gibson always do is press the serial number into the back of the headstock. They will never cut it out like this. You can see that this has been cut or laser cut out the back of this headstock post everything's been finished, and you can see it's a bit white here and there. That writing, that is never going to look like that on a real Gibson. So immediately everything is looking bad on this one. The other things to look out for, aside from the obvious visual cues, are if you take off the truss rod cover from one of these, you should see it's on a Gibson, it has a kind of like a rod sticking out the top from the guitar itself. You will never see it sort of like an Allen wrench kind of thing. An Allen wrench you'd normally see, say, for example, normal sort of cheaper guitar, and a lot of guitars it would be an Allen wrench, but Gibson have the kind of like sticky out nub for your truss rod. Now beyond those obvious things, you can also go inside the guitar. Now clearly this is where things get a bit sketchy, because if you go inside the back plate of the guitar itself, now you should obviously see some Gibson electronics. You'll be looking at sort of big pots, like CTS pots normally, and nice braided wiring, all that kind of stuff. Now what can happen is that somebody can buy a Chibson and they can upgrade all those electronics. So that is something to be wary of, because that won't necessarily point to the fact that it's a fake. So it's something to be aware of. It's an extra step you can take, but it's not necessarily going to mean that it's, you know, that it's a real thing, because they might have changed the electronics, and they might have even changed the pickups, because that's the next thing you can do. You can check inside the pickup cavities, take these pickups out, have a look, and try and verify if those pickups look as though they're real Gibson pickups. Sometimes you might have some lettering on there. It's something to look out for as well, because sometimes they will change these pickups and they'll change the back electronics, and you won't necessarily know the difference. Another point to mention is that these screws on the pickup covers should be countersunk on a real Gibson. If they are round heads inside the actual fixings which go through the plastic into the guitar, if those are round heads, in all likelihood it could also be a Chibson. Having a round head for where the pickup actually sits into the pickup ring, that one is fine. It's these actually going into the guitar that should be countersunk. So that's something to watch out for. You can see it here on both pickups. Sadly, you can tell immediately with this one that it's looking extremely, extremely dodgy indeed. Aside from the fact, I mean, it's not impossible. This one's supposed to be from 1995. It actually looks in relatively good condition for that year. I mean, there's nothing to say that somebody wouldn't have looked after it very well. So that's not necessarily something to go on. And just for clarity, I'm not having a go at anybody, as I say, who wants to buy a Gibson style guitar or something that looks like a Gibson, but they can't really afford the real thing. And they want to keep it for themselves. I can see that. And if they, if somebody wants to sell it somewhere and they're very clear with the listing and they say, hey, look, this is not the real deal, then it is what it is. They're out there. What can you say? My personal opinion, I'm not in love with that concept, and I wouldn't touch a Chibson with a barge pole, apart from I might review it on the channel or what have you at some point, just to then carve it up and burn it. But there you go, because I know a lot of people do buy Chibsons, and so it is what it is. But I'd rather buy a nice, good Epiphone, for example, or even a PRS or what have you, rather than a Chibson that has a genuine, inverted commas, Gibson logo on it and is out to basically screw people. So I just wanted to end on a few key points. This is a Westfield Les Paul copy that I'm working on at the moment. I'm fixing this up. This one you might have seen in one of my previous videos. I got this for free actually, so you can't say fairer than that. But this, I would say, is not a Chibson. This is very much, it's got its own brand on it. The headstock's different. It's not, it is a Les Paul style guitar, if you like, but it isn't trying to say that it has got, Gibson on the headstock, and it's not trying to be a fake Gibson, if you like. I find those ones a bit morally reprehensible, to be fair. So I wanted to make that clear that, if you've got a brand like Grote or Westfield or even Harley Benton, whatever, as long as they're not sort of lawsuit Gibson style guitars, that seems to be relatively fair. The other thing that I wanted to say was, I'm very pleased to say that the retailer who was selling that guitar on their website, that had obviously been given to them, because they are a pawn shop, and so they obviously had that guitar secondhand from someone. They have removed that from their website, so that's a good win. So that's absolutely brilliant. I'm very happy to report on that. And the other thing to mention is, even if you disagree with me, if you agree with me, love to hear what you're thinking. Do be respectful in the comments. And I will very gladly sort of come back to any comments or what have you. And, we'll chat there, and I'll see you in the next one. So, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And, see you again.